Picture this. In an age when the vast majority believed the Earth was as flat as a tabletop, a handful of intrepid cartographers were quietly crafting maps that would forever transform our understanding of the world. These visionary map makers dared to challenge centuries of established beliefs, armed with nothing more than their instruments, their mathematical minds, and an unwavering dedication to uncovering the truth. While their contemporaries feared sailing off the edge of the world, these pioneers were meticulously documenting coastlines, calculating distances, and slowly piecing together the true shape of our planet. Each carefully drawn line in their maps represented more than just the separation between land and sea. It marked the boundary between old superstitions and new knowledge, between fear of the unknown and the courage to explore. These maps became the silent revolution that would ultimately reshape human consciousness, igniting an age of exploration that would connect continents and cultures in ways previously unimaginable. As we unfold this remarkable story, you'll discover how these brave souls, working in candlelit studios across Europe, weren't just drawing maps. They were literally redrawing the boundaries of human understanding, one careful stroke at a time. Their legacy lives on in every modern map, satellite image, and global positioning system we use today, reminding us that sometimes the greatest revolutions begin not with swords and battles, but with paper, ink, and the relentless pursuit of truth. The year was 1492. As Christopher Columbus was gathering his crew and preparing the vessels that would forever change the course of history, a secretive group of master cartographers was huddled in their workshops in Lisbon, Portugal. These men possessed something far more valuable than gold, knowledge that would completely redefine the world's geography. In their carefully guarded chambers, they were the keepers of Portugal's most precious secrets. Detailed maps of African coastlines, wind patterns of the Atlantic, and possibly even hints of lands far beyond the known world. These weren't mere drawings on parchment. They were the keys to empire building, the foundation of naval supremacy, and the blueprint for humanity's greatest adventures. Within the dimly lit rooms of Lisbon's cartographic workshops, every map told a story of power, ambition, and the relentless human drive to explore the unknown. The Portuguese cartographers knew something that Columbus didn't, that the world was far more vast and complex than most Europeans imagined. While Spain's soon-to-be famous explorer was convinced he could reach Asia by sailing west, these master mapmakers were already guarding centuries of accumulated knowledge about trade winds, ocean currents, and coastal formations that had made Portugal the leading maritime power of its time. What these cartographers created was far more than geographical representations. They were crafting instruments of power that would determine the fate of nations. Their maps were the Silicon Valley trade secrets of their time, jealously guarded state treasures that could mean the difference between discovering new trade routes and losing ships in treacherous waters. Each carefully drawn coastline, each precisely measured distance, each annotated sea route represented not just physical features, but the dreams of empires, the hopes of explorers, and the future of human discovery. Want to discover how these remarkable maps transformed humanity's vision of the world? Join us on Modern Age Chronicles as we embark on an extraordinary journey through the history of cartography, where every map tells a story of ambition, discovery, and the remarkable human drive to understand our world. Hit the subscribe button, ring the notification bell, and give us a thumbs up to ensure you don't miss this incredible voyage through time and space. The invisible heroes who shaped our understanding of the world weren't conquerors or kings, but rather a remarkable group of visionaries known as cartographers. These extraordinary individuals combined the precision of scientists with the imagination of artists, and their work would forever change how humanity viewed its home planet. Among these pioneers stands Martin Behaim, a German merchant and cosmographer who achieved something revolutionary in 1492. He created the world's first terrestrial globe, known as the Erdapfel. This groundbreaking achievement came even before Columbus set sail across the Atlantic, marking a pivotal moment in cartographic history. In the same league of extraordinary mapmakers was Abraham Ortelius, now revered as the father of modern cartography. In 1570, this Flemish cartographer published the Theatrum Orbis Terrarum, the world's first modern atlas. Ortelius wasn't merely a collector of maps. He was a meticulous scholar who credited his sources, standardized map formats, and created a comprehensive view of the known world that would influence cartography for centuries to come. These men were far more than simple draftsmen. They were intellectuals who mastered multiple disciplines, combining mathematics, astronomy, geography, and art. Take Gerard Mercator, whose revolutionary projection method for creating maps is still in use today. His mathematical genius allowed him to solve one of cartography's greatest challenges: how to represent our spherical Earth on a flat surface while maintaining accurate navigation bearings. Portuguese cartographers like Pedro Rianel and his son Jorge Rianel worked in utmost secrecy, creating detailed nautical charts called Portolan maps that gave Portugal its maritime advantage. Their masterpiece, the Carta Marina Navigatoria, showcased unprecedented detail of Atlantic waters and African coastlines, information that was worth its weight in gold during the Age of Discovery. The dedication of these map makers went far beyond their drafting tables. Many, like João Teixeira Albernaz, accompanied expeditions to gather first-hand geographical knowledge. Others, such as Willem Blau, combined their cartographic work with instrument making, creating tools that would help future generations of explorers navigate the seas with greater precision. These cartographers were also businessmen and diplomats. Sebastian Münster, whose Cosmographia became one of the most influential geographical works of the 16th century, built extensive networks of correspondence across Europe to gather the latest geographical information. Their work required not only technical skill but also diplomatic finesse, as they often navigated political sensitivities while mapping disputed territories. Perhaps most remarkably, these men were visionaries who could see beyond the limitations of their time. Fra Mauro, a 15th-century Venetian monk and cartographer, created maps that challenged the traditional Jerusalem-centered view of the world, placing the Indian Ocean at the center and showing Africa as circumnavigable decades before European ships would prove it so. Through their tireless work, these cartographers did more than draw maps. They redrew the boundaries of human knowledge. Their legacy lives on not just in their maps, but in the very way we understand our world today. They were truly the architects of a new worldview, transforming vague and mysterious spaces into known, measurable territories that would inspire generations of explorers to come. Step into a 16th-century European cartographer's workshop, where the air is thick with the distinct aroma of freshly cured parchment and the earthy scent of oak gall ink. The workshop, typically nestled in the upper floor of a stone building in cities like Antwerp, Venice, or Lisbon, is a sanctuary of knowledge and craftsmanship. Sunlight filters through leaded glass windows, casting long shadows across wooden work tables, stained with years of ink spills and compass marks. In the corner, beeswax candles flicker, their warm light essential for the detailed work that often stretches into the night. The gentle scratching of quill pens mingles with the metallic whisper of brass dividers marking distances across carefully prepared calfskin vellum. Each sheet of parchment, carefully selected and prepared, costs as much as a craftsman's weekly wage, a testament to the precious nature of the cartographer's art. The workshop is a treasure trove of tools and materials. Brass and wooden instruments line the walls, compasses, rulers, and astrolabes, each meticulously maintained. Drawers contain precious pigments, vermilion red, ultramarine blue, and gold leaf, waiting to be mixed with gum arabic to create the vibrant colors that will bring the maps to life. The sharp, mineral smell of these pigments mingles with the musty aroma of reference materials, dog-eared sailors' journals, tattered charts, and confidential reports from returning merchants. On the main workbench, a large piece of vellum is stretched taut, its surface carefully prepared with pumice stone until it's smooth enough to accept the finest ink lines. The cartographer bends over his work, using a fine brush to apply the first layer of ink that will form the coastlines. His hands move with surgical precision, each stroke the result of decades of practice and inherited knowledge. Around him, apprentices grind pigments, prepare inks, and copy older maps, their movements choreographed by years of training. In one corner, a translator pores over Portuguese sailing charts, converting distances and descriptions into information the master cartographer can use. The workshop buzzes with whispered conversations in multiple languages, Latin, Portuguese, Dutch, Italian, as information from across the known world is collected and translated into visual form. The walls are adorned with works in progress, partially completed maps showing the latest discoveries in the New World, updated coastal charts of Africa, and detailed Mediterranean ports. Each map represents months of work, combining information from countless sources: sailors' logs, merchants' accounts, astronomical observations, and ancient texts. Some feature elaborate compass roses, intricate Baroque cartouches, and imaginative illustrations of distant lands and creatures, transforming geographical knowledge into works of art. As evening approaches, the workshop grows quieter. The master cartographer holds a nearly completed map up to the fading light, examining the delicate lines and subtle shadowing that suggest mountain ranges and ocean depths. Each map is more than a mere document. It's a masterpiece that combines scientific precision with artistic beauty, a declaration of human achievement and possibility. These workshops were more than mere workrooms. They were the Silicon Valleys of their day, where the boundaries of known world were literally being redrawn. Here, in these quiet, focused spaces, amid the tools of their trade and the accumulated wisdom of centuries, cartographers were crafting more than maps. They were creating new ways of seeing and understanding our world, one careful stroke at a time. Did you know that the fascinating world of historical cartography holds some of the most surprising secrets of human civilization? Let's dive into some mind-bending facts that will forever change how you look at maps. Imagine holding the world's first globe, Martin Behaim's Erdapfel, created in 1492. Remarkably, this revolutionary sphere completely lacks the Americas, an entire hemisphere missing from what was considered the most advanced geographical representation of its time. Behaim's globe, still preserved in Nuremberg, shows a world where sailing west from Europe would lead directly to Asia, a misconception that would both inspire and confound explorers of the age. The etymology of the word map tells its own fascinating story. Derived from the Latin mappa mundi, literally meaning cloth of the world, it harkens back to a time when maps were often drawn on fabric. The term originated because early medieval maps were frequently painted on linen or cotton, materials that could be easily transported and were more durable than paper. This ancient practice of mapping on fabric continued well into the age of exploration, with some naval charts being sewn directly onto ships' sails. Perhaps the most captivating aspect of medieval cartography was its amazing bestiary of mythical creatures inhabiting the unknown regions of maps. These weren't just artistic flourishes, they represented a complex mixture of fear, wonder, and scientific speculation. The margins of medieval maps featured an extraordinary menagerie. Dog-headed men called cynocephaly were often shown in Africa, while the seas teemed with fearsome creatures like the kraken and giant sea serpents. The famous phrase, "Here be dragons," actually appears on the 16th century Hunt Lennox globe, one of only 2 known instances of this phrase on historical maps. Medieval cartographers filled the unknown spaces with more than just monsters. The legendary island of Antilia, said to house 7 cities of gold, appeared on maps well into the 15th century. The mythical kingdom of Prester John, a supposed Christian ruler in the East, was mapped in various locations across Asia and later Africa, influencing exploration and diplomatic missions for centuries. Even more intriguing is how these fantastical elements served a practical purpose. The sea monsters and mythical creatures often marked dangerous shipping routes or unexplored territories. A dragon might indicate treacherous currents, while a mermaid could mark areas known for dangerous reefs. These imaginative illustrations weren't just decorative, they were part of a sophisticated visual language that communicated real maritime hazards to sailors. The tradition of decorative cartography reached its peak in the 16th century with maps that were as much works of art as they were scientific documents. Cartographers like Ortelius and Mercator included elaborate illustrations of ships, sea creatures, and distant lands, creating maps that doubled as encyclopedias of contemporary knowledge about the world's wonders, both real and imagined. Some maps even included hidden messages and political commentary. The famous Fool's Cap map of the world from the 1580s shows the world inside a court jester's cap, suggesting the folly of human attempts to understand and control the globe. This tradition of cartographic symbolism continues today in modern political caricature maps. But perhaps the most remarkable aspect of historical maps is how they reveal the evolution of human knowledge. Each new map represented not just geographical knowledge, but the cutting edge of human understanding in fields as diverse as mathematics, astronomy, art, and natural history. They were the medieval equivalent of our modern internet, repositories of all known information about the world, carefully curated and beautifully presented for those who knew how to read them. These fascinating elements of historical cartography remind us that maps have always been more than mere geographical tools. They are windows into how humans have understood, imagined, and dreamed about their world throughout history. They stand as testaments to both the limits and the boundless nature of human knowledge, creativity, and curiosity. The dramatic evolution of cartography reads like an epic tale of human discovery, beginning in the misty realms of medieval imagination and culminating in the triumph of scientific knowledge. Let's journey through this remarkable transformation that forever changed how we see our world. In the beginning, medieval cartographers crafted maps that were as much works of fantasy as they were geographical documents. The famous Hereford Mappamundi of 1300 placed Jerusalem at the world's center, with paradise illustrated as a walled garden at the top of the map. These early maps were populated with an astonishing array of mythical creatures. Dog-headed men prowled the edges of Africa, while fearsome sea monsters patrolled unknown waters. The mysterious lands of Gog and Magog, the kingdom of Prester John, and the legendary island of Antilia all found their places on these early maps, reflecting a worldview where faith, myth, and geographical knowledge intertwined. The story's development accelerates dramatically with the dawn of Portuguese and Spanish maritime exploration. Prince Henry the Navigator's systematic gathering of geographical knowledge in the 15th century marked a revolutionary shift. Portuguese cartographers began creating highly accurate portal-on charts, mapping Africa's coastline with unprecedented precision. The Spanish, inspired by Columbus's voyages, started documenting the Americas, leading to revolutionary maps like Juan de la Cosa's 1500 world map, the first to show the New World. The narrative reaches its climax in the 16th century when European cartographers suddenly faced an extraordinary challenge, incorporating a world that had more than doubled in size. The discovery of the Americas, the first circumnavigation of the globe by Magellan's expedition, and the mapping of vast new oceans forced cartographers to completely reimagine their understanding of global geography. Mercator's 1569 projection represented a pivotal moment, solving the complex mathematical problem of representing a spherical Earth on a flat surface, while preserving directional accuracy for navigation. The story's resolution comes with the triumph of scientific cartography. By the 17th and 18th centuries, maps had become sophisticated scientific instruments. The development of accurate chronometers, precise astronomical observations, and advanced surveying techniques led to maps of unprecedented accuracy. The mythical creatures and imaginary lands gradually disappeared, replaced by careful documentation of actual geographical features, ocean currents, and wind patterns. This transformation was far more than a simple progression from ignorance to knowledge. Each stage represented a different way of understanding the world. Medieval maps, with their monsters and myths, weren't simply wrong. They represented a worldview where physical and spiritual geography were inseparable. The Portuguese and Spanish explorers' maps showed a world of expanding possibilities and commercial opportunities. The great world maps of the 16th century reflected a revolutionary new understanding of global geography, while the scientific maps of the Enlightenment embodied the triumph of empirical observation and mathematical precision. The legacy of this cartographic revolution extends far beyond geography. These maps changed how humans understood their place in the world, transformed international trade and politics, and laid the groundwork for our modern global civilization. The evolution of cartography is, in many ways, the story of how humanity learned to see itself and its world in an entirely new way. Today's satellite imagery and GPS technology might seem far removed from medieval maps with their sea monsters and legendary islands. Yet they represent the continuation of humanity's quest to understand and document our world with ever greater precision. The story of cartography remains one of humanity's greatest intellectual adventures, a journey from the realms of imagination to the peaks of scientific achievement. This remarkable journey from medieval imagination to scientific precision continues to influence how we understand our world today. Each map, whether ancient or modern, tells a story not just about the world it depicts, but about the people who created it and their understanding of their place in the universe. Let us know in the comments your thoughts on how these evolving maps shaped the great age of exploration, and don't forget to hit the notification bell to stay updated on more fascinating historical revelations. The rich tapestry of cartographic history is preserved through an extraordinary collection of primary sources that continue to amaze scholars and enthusiasts alike. The Cantino planisphere of 1502 stands as one of the most remarkable cartographic treasures ever created, secretly copied from Portuguese royal maps and smuggled to Italy. This masterpiece represents the first known map showing Portuguese discoveries in the East and Brazil, featuring exquisite detail and vibrant colors that remain stunning even after 5 centuries. The priceless Theatrum Orbis Terram, published by Abraham Ortelius in 1570, revolutionized how humans organized geographical knowledge. This first modern atlas contained 53 maps compiled from the best available sources, with each map accompanied by a detailed text describing the region's geography, history, and characteristics. The meticulous attention to detail in Ortelius's work is evident in his careful documentation of sources, crediting 87 different cartographers for their contributions. Ship logs and navigator diaries provide invaluable insights into how these maps were created and used. The diary of Antonio Pigafetta, who chronicled Magellan's circumnavigation, offers detailed descriptions of how navigators used and updated their charts during voyages. Similarly, the Rutas, pilot books, of Portuguese navigators contain precise descriptions of coastlines, currents, and landmarks that were later incorporated into maps. Archaeological evidence has uncovered fascinating tools of the cartographic trade. Discoveries of astrolabes, quadrants, and other navigation instruments from shipwrecks help us understand the technical capabilities of period mapmakers. The recovered instruments often show where patterns that reveal how they were used to make the precise measurements necessary for accurate mapping. The Carta Marina of Martin Waldseemüller from 1516 represents another cartographic milestone, providing extensive documentation through its accompanying book, the Cosmographie Introductio. This text explains the mapmaking process and sources used, offering a rare glimpse into the methodologies of Renaissance cartographers. The map itself features over 1,000 place names and numerous illustrations, demonstrating the incredible detail achieved by early 16th century cartographers. Monastery records and university documents from the period reveal the complex networks of knowledge exchange that made advanced cartography possible. The records of the monastery of Alcobaça in Portugal show how monks collected and copied geographical information from returning sailors, while university records from Coimbra detail how mathematical and astronomical knowledge was applied to mapmaking. The Jorge Rionel Atlas of 1540 includes precise wind roses and distance scales that demonstrate the sophisticated mathematical principles used in navigation and mapping. Its detailed coastal profiles and depth soundings provide evidence of the systematic approach to data collection employed by Portuguese cartographers. Library inventories from major European trading cities reveal the extensive collection of geographical materials available to cartographers. The 1525 inventory of the House of India in Lisbon lists hundreds of charts and roteiros, routing maps, showing how cartographic knowledge was systematically collected and preserved. This wealth of primary sources continues to yield new insights into historical cartography. Modern analysis techniques, including multispectral imaging and chemical analysis of inks and pigments, reveal previously hidden details about how these maps were created and modified over time. These sources not only document geographical knowledge, but also tell the story of how humans gradually pieced together their understanding of the world, one map at a time. The impact of cartographic evolution extends far beyond mere geographical knowledge, fundamentally transforming human civilization in ways that continue to resonate today. These carefully crafted documents became instruments of power that reshaped global dynamics and human understanding in profound and lasting ways. In terms of global geopolitics, maps became the silent architects of empire building. The Portuguese jealously guarded their detailed maps of African coastal routes, using this cartographic monopoly to dominate early maritime trade. When the Spanish gained accurate maps of the Americas, it dramatically shifted the balance of power in Europe. Maps literally became documents of sovereignty. The ability to accurately map a territory became tantamount to claiming it. The Treaty of Tordesillas in 1494, dividing the New World between Spain and Portugal, was only possible because of advanced cartographic knowledge, establishing a precedent for using maps to negotiate international boundaries that continues to this day. The transformation of trade routes through accurate cartography revolutionized global commerce. The careful mapping of ocean currents, wind patterns, and coastal features enabled merchants to establish reliable trading networks spanning continents. Portuguese cartographers' detailed documentation of the African coast opened up new trading possibilities with India and Asia, while Spanish maps of the Americas created entirely new commercial networks across the Atlantic. The Dutch East India Company's success was largely built on their superior cartographic knowledge, allowing them to establish efficient trading routes that outmaneuvered their competitors. Colonization strategies were completely reconceptualized through advanced cartography. Maps provided vital information about natural harbors, river systems, and inland resources that determined where colonies would be established. The British Empire's expansion was guided by increasingly detailed maps that showed not just coastlines but inland territories, natural resources, and native populations. These maps became blueprints for colonial administration, determining everything from the placement of settlements to the drawing of administrative boundaries, many of which persist as national borders today. The scientific and technological development spurred by cartographic advancement was remarkable. The need for accurate maps drove innovations in mathematics, astronomy, and instrumentation. The development of the marine chronometer, crucial for determining longitude, was directly motivated by cartographic needs. Mercator's revolutionary projection technique required solving complex mathematical problems, advancing both geometry and trigonometry. The need to accurately measure and represent the Earth's surface led to developments in surveying technology, mathematical geography, and eventually geodesy. The impact on maritime technology was particularly profound. The development of better ships, more accurate navigational instruments, and improved methods of calculating position at sea were all driven by cartographic requirements. These advances not only made navigation safer, but also enabled the precise mapping of ocean currents and wind patterns, leading to more efficient global shipping routes that are still used today. Perhaps most significantly, maps transformed human consciousness itself. They changed how people understood their place in the world, shifting from a locally focused worldview to a global perspective. The ability to see the entire world represented on a single map fundamentally altered how humans conceived of distance, space, and international relations. This new geographical awareness fostered international trade, cultural exchange, and eventually global consciousness. The cartographic revolution also impacted education and scientific thinking. Maps became essential teaching tools, helping to spread geographical knowledge and promote systematic, empirical thinking about the world. They contributed to the scientific revolution by demonstrating that careful observation and measurement could lead to practical benefits, helping to establish the modern scientific worldview. In the realm of military strategy, accurate maps became crucial for planning campaigns and understanding terrain. The advantage of superior cartographic knowledge often proved decisive in military conflicts, establishing a pattern that continues through modern satellite reconnaissance. The military's need for accurate maps drove further cartographic innovations, creating a feedback loop of technological advancement. This cartographic revolution laid the groundwork for today's globalized world. Modern international trade, diplomatic relations, and global communications all build upon the fundamental changes in human understanding brought about by the development of accurate world maps. From GPS navigation to Google Earth, contemporary technologies continue this tradition of using cartographic knowledge to transform how we interact with our world. The impact of historical cartography thus represents one of the most profound transformations in human civilization, reshaping everything from international commerce to scientific understanding. It stands as a testament to how advances in human knowledge can fundamentally transform society, economics, and human consciousness itself. The transformation of cartography during the Age of Discovery occurred at a unique moment in human civilization, when multiple revolutionary changes converged to reshape human understanding and capabilities. This period marked an extraordinary intersection of scientific advancement, cultural exchange, and technological innovation, with cartography standing at the very center of this revolutionary confluence. The scientific revolution found one of its purest expressions in cartographic advancement. While Copernicus was redefining our understanding of the solar system, cartographers were empirically proving the world's spherical nature through increasingly accurate measurements and observations. The need for precise maps drove developments in astronomy, as celestial navigation required detailed understanding of star positions and movements. This period saw the emergence of systematic observation and mathematical verification as the foundations of scientific knowledge, with cartography serving as a perfect example of how theoretical understanding could be translated into practical results. Mathematical knowledge experienced unprecedented expansion during this period, largely driven by cartographic needs. The challenge of representing a spherical Earth on a flat surface spawned innovations in geometry, trigonometry, and what would later become differential calculus. Mercator's groundbreaking projection required solving complex mathematical problems that pushed the boundaries of 16th-century mathematical understanding. Portuguese cartographers developed sophisticated methods for calculating distances and positions, creating mathematical models that would influence navigation for centuries to come. The development of navigation instruments during this period represents one of history's great technological leaps. The astrolabe evolved from a basic astronomical tool into a sophisticated instrument for determining latitude. The invention of the backstaff and quadrant allowed for more precise celestial measurements. Perhaps most significantly, the quest for accurate longitude measurements drove the development of marine chronometers, representing one of the period's greatest technological achievements. Each of these innovations was intrinsically linked to cartographic advancement, creating a powerful feedback loop of technological progress. Global cultural exchanges reached unprecedented levels, with cartography playing a central role. Maps became vessels of cultural knowledge, recording not just geographical features but local customs, wildlife, and resources. Portuguese cartographers incorporated African and Indian geographical knowledge into their maps, while Spanish maps recorded indigenous American place names and cultural features. This period saw the first true global exchange of geographical knowledge, with European cartographers synthesizing information from Arabic, Chinese, and indigenous sources to create increasingly comprehensive world maps. The influence of cartography on architectural and artistic development cannot be overlooked. The same mathematical principles used in mapmaking were applied to perspective drawing and architectural design. The detailed illustrations on maps influenced artistic styles, while cartographic techniques influenced how artists represented space and distance in their works. Cartography also played a crucial role in the development of standardized measurements and mathematical notation. The need for consistent distance measurements and angular calculations led to innovations in mathematical notation and measurement standards that would influence many other fields of study. And here's an amazing historical tidbit that few people know. In 1524, a single misleading map changed the course of Giovanni da Verrazzano's famous exploration of North America. The map showed North America as being extremely narrow at one point, with the Pacific Ocean visible just beyond a thin strip of land. When Verrazzano spotted what we now know as the Outer Banks of North Carolina, he mistook the Long Barrier Islands and the Pamlico Sound behind them for the Pacific Ocean, leading him to report that one could reach Asia by sailing through this narrow passage. This cartographic error persisted on maps for decades, influencing numerous subsequent expeditions and exploration strategies. The history of cartography is filled with incredible discoveries just like this one. If you want more exclusive content about how maps shaped our world, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Modern Age Chronicles. Hit the notification bell to ensure you never miss our upcoming episodes about the amazing stories behind history's most important maps and the brave explorers who used them. Leave a comment below telling us which historical map you'd like to learn more about.